Garfield, wake up.
Good morning, John.
No time for small talk, Garfield. It's Christmas morning, and you know what that means.
Of course I do. Christmas means presents. Lots and lots of presents.
First things first, Garfield. You can't open presents on an empty stomach. Here are your breakfast lasagnas. You may eat your way to the tree.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Non-Content Podcast. This is a YouTube exclusive, so please like and subscribe. Give a thumbs up on the bell icon. Subscribe as well. My name is Jerome Cuson. You can find me on BlueSky at JeromeC1985. My partner and colleague, as always, is Brian. At some point, Brian is going to join us on BlueSky. It'll take some convincing, but we'll get him there eventually. Brian, we are doing YouTube exclusives this month. In keeping with the Christmas theme, we've been doing a lot of anniversary stuff. And we kind of forfeited spooky season. I did not want to forfeit Christmas season, so we are going to be looking at some hilarious, great, sometimes not so great Christmas specials. Brian, we are starting with the Garfield Christmas special, and I am literally staring at a giant Garfield that is in my room. So that is where I'm at. Look, I know that Jim Davis is kind of a terrible human being. I would not say that Garfield is funny now. But who doesn't love Garfield when you're a kid?
Yeah, I mean, I watched the show a little bit as a kid. I wasn't too big of a Garfield fan, but I was a fan of the 2004 movie for some reason. I guess I don't know, but not too big of a fan, right? But
the clarity of the voice connection between the two voice actors, right?
Yeah, I know. Do you want to explain the Bill Murray connection and how it relates to the real Ghostbusters?
So Bill Murray was, of course, in the Ghostbusters movie, but he was not the voice in the real Ghostbusters. That would be Lorenzo Bach, who was, of course, the voice of Garfield. And then Bill Murray would take over the Garfield voice because Lorenzo Bach sadly passed away in 2001. So that is why we have two movies with Bill Murray as the voiceover, collecting a paycheck. But that is years later. We are talking about the 1987 Garfield Christmas special. Have you ever seen the Halloween one? We may need to do that one at some point.
I'm thinking about binging them because they're all on Peacock, and I was like, this is only 23 minutes. I'm always laughing at Garfield because
the Halloween one is surprisingly terrifying. I'm just going to tell you that.
Okay.
It's kind of creepy. We may review it at some point. There's also a Thanksgiving. I don't remember the Thanksgiving one well at all, which probably means just like Thanksgiving, it quickly gets forgotten. But Brian, this is Garfield. Garfield is a lazy cat who doesn't like Mondays, but he loves lasagna and he loves food, and he doesn't want to be disturbed from leaving his bed. So he is a perfect representation of the modern millennial, correct?
Or my dog, because my dog is the same way, just not the lasagna part, but she's very sassy and likes to eat a lot of food and likes to nap 16 hours of the day, which she should be. She's a part Chihuahua, so part Chihuahua, part Terrier, so that makes sense. But yeah, Garfield is so hilarious because it's almost like the Deadpool thing before Deadpool. He's breaking the fourth wall. He's doing snide comments. You know, the humans don't understand him when he makes the snide comments, but it's still funny. So yeah, Garfield has always been like a great gimmick to me in terms of like cartoon stuff, and he's always hilarious. I kept laughing my ass off at the beginning of the special, and then all of a sudden the special decided to have a plot in the middle of it, and then all of a sudden break your heart and make you cry.
It started to make you cry, yes, it really did. But there are a couple songs, they're fine. I mean, honestly, like I kind of miss the days of these kind of one-off Christmas specials, and I think you do still get them to an extent, but I don't know. Being an adult obviously changes things, but it doesn't feel like we get these kind of Christmas specials nearly as much. And it feels like we've seen in the space to like Hallmark and their Christmas movies, which, I mean, if people get enjoyment out of them, that's fine. But it just feels like they're putting forth a very particular vision of Christmas that I'm not always super into. But again, I'm not judging people who enjoy the movies, especially when the world seemingly is on fire, literally and figuratively. But I think with something like this, I think it's 23 minutes. It's very fun. There is some emotion attached to this. Now, I've seen this special a number of times. Brian, I know you had never seen it, so How did it feel when Granny started talking about her dead husband?
I was like, where is this coming from? And where's this plot coming from? And I was just like, can we go back to Garfield really quick? Because I got really, really sad. But I don't know. I think the gift at the end was really cool. But like, if you extend this into a 90-minute movie, you could have some potential earlier. Because like, man, Pat Carroll just did an awesome job. But yeah, really emotional.
Probably my favorite voiceover performance of the whole special, really. I mean, and the thing is, like, he was alive until 2022. He was 60 years old when they made this special. Still was with us in 2022. She passed away at the age of 95 years old.
More power to her because she was fantastic, and the way they animated her made her seem like that everyday kind of grandma from the 80s and 90s. As opposed to the traditional looking grandmas from the 60s and 70s. If you kind of know what I'm talking about, look at like old shows from that era and how they portray grandmas as opposed to like grandmas from the 80s and 90s who have a lot more spunk in them.
Definitely. Yeah, you get that a lot. How do you feel about Binky Saves Christmas? Did you want a rendering of Binky Saves Christmas?
That was the story they told, right? But they just didn't show anything. I was kind of like, oh, come on. Like, they had this whole setup and they just didn't show any of the visuals.
Binky's very much Krusty before Krusty. I don't want to say that Matt Groening. I mean, Matt Groening has always said that Bozo was the big influence, but Binky was very much like a version of Krusty in many ways. If you watch the Garfield animated show and read the comic, then Binky even sounds a little bit like Krusty as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I just like the fact that like their whole family is like coming together, and then they still act like kids when they're adults. Like they're asking their dad, "Can we open presents?"
I think it's funny that neither John nor Doc Boy have a wife and child. I think that's really interesting.
As of yet, they still could be young and bacheloring around. So to speak.
And John has never had kids in the comic.
And we'll find out until some of these new movies come out, right? So we'll see. But I didn't watch the Garfield movie that came out this year.
These are canon. Yeah, you might get some of that. We'll see.
Yeah, but I just found it funny that it was like 1 a.m. and they were asking their older father if they can open presents on Christmas morning, even though they're adults. I thought that was like hilarious. But that kind of shows you that childish feeling you get during Christmas. So that kind of worked a lot. And I don't know, that I think the big payoff with the gift was like, whoa, because I didn't expect like Odie, like he built a back scratcher out of like different things, and I was just like, because if you pay attention to the background of what he's doing throughout the whole special, he's collecting parts for a back scratcher. Because at first he's taking things, and I was like, did he take that string from the box? What is he gonna do with that? And then it leads to this big back scratch, not big, but like this reveal of a back scratcher, which is such in line with Garfield, and they were just scratching their butts and loving it. And I thought that is something an animal would give to another animal, or if they're pet friends or whatever. That is so adorable.
And of course, Garfield is always constantly abusive to Odie, although we don't get that in this particular special. Like Garfield is never abusive to Odie, and I think that's the reason they don't do that is because of the payoff, and they don't want Garfield to be a dick and then get a present from Odie. So they kind of put that to the side this time, but Garfield is heavily focused. What did you think of the beginning when John puts all that lasagna out for him, and it's kind of a dream sequence?
Again, I thought about my dog. Because we kind of have to do that sometimes to get her to eat or move. It's like we have to put food in front of her and then put a bowl of snacks right next to it just to get her to move sometimes. So I get that, and I get it. Not every dog and cat is like that, but for some people like me who have a dog that just acts like Garfield, you just relate to it because my God, my dog can be sassy and so can Garfield. But I think Garfield finding the letters at the end, very redemptive moment for what we've seen Garfield do in the past to Odie. Really cool moment. I kind of had a similar moment with my aunts and my moms. Like I found this box one day in the garage. It was all these old letters from their time in the Philippines. So I've kind of related to that moment. So that's a real thing. So pretty cool that this was like a real moment in this cartoon special. It just sucks it was 23 minutes because I felt like there was so much more they could have done. Like I would love a full 5-minute
I am more than okay with this being 23 minutes. I think any longer it becomes. I think it loses a lot of its. I think it loses a lot just because I think that I think the magic of these specials is that they are intended to be as short as they are. Because I think if you make them an hour, I feel like they get a little long in the tooth, and I just don't think that that works for what they're trying to do and the stories they're trying to tell. I think 23 minutes is perfect.
Yeah, I get that vibe too, but man, I just wanted more out of it. That's why I'm kind of considering going back and kind of binge watching some of these specials. Not necessarily show, because I watched some of the show as a kid, but I think these
It's fine,
specials might
but
hit
like
a
the
little different.
specials are their own thing, and the show is kind of more ridiculous. And I think the specials, especially the Halloween, I think you'll actually really like the Halloween.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to that because, like, I'm glad Peacock could kind of put them all together, and they're short and they get to the point, and I love the Garfield character anyway, so they kind of, checks off some boxes, kind of so to speak. But yeah, for a holiday special, this is really really good stuff. Like, I would give this like an 8 out of 10 as a whole. I think the animation is really good. I think the colors are really well done, especially that opening sequence where Garfield's just kind of like having his fantasy Christmas. But I think just the way they animate the TVs and all the electronics and all the food and stuff, they use the colors well, and then kind of contrast it with the snowy kind of background. I thought that was really well done. And of course, the tree looked good. I always like it when they light a tree well in a Christmas movie, cartoon, whatever, because of the
For a Keto
colors.
animated special, the tree looked pretty cool, I have to say.
Yeah, and the colors look really good, and me on colors. So, and I like the idea of Garfield going all the way to the top and putting the ornament on. That's pretty funny. And the fact that they also mentioned, like, I've also kind of come up with this idea too, like, why don't we just put the thing on top first, then put the tree up? But of course, that's not the tradition. The way it goes, we have to do it the hard way.
How
Yeah, that's
dare
the
you?
magic. Yeah, that's the magic of Christmas. Going up on a ladder, hopefully not finding any bugs in the trees, and then putting the thing on top. Of course, if this was Christmas Vacation, then there would be like a wild animal in there because, that's how it goes.
All right, that is our thoughts on the Garfield Christmas special. Again, these episodes are going to be a little bit shorter, but we are going to be continuing on. Brian, I'm so excited for next week because we're going to talk about another of my favorite Christmas specials. This one being A Very Brady Christmas from 1988, which leads to one of the worst television shows that has maybe ever been produced, The Brady's. I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit next week.
Yeah, and this is interesting because I confused it with the other Brady movie where one of them ran for Congress, and I kind of put those two movies
That is
together.
the show. It's the show, bro.
But that was the show, so that's where I get confused because it seemed like one giant TV movie comeback reunion special, but it's actually multiple things that were spread out over a series of time, which leads into the Brady movie.
It really does. Again, also follow our main feed on Spotify and Apple as well as YouTube because we'll be continuing discussing some important anniversaries, all building up to something very special for Christmas, which we're going to be working on booking very soon. Any final thoughts, Brian?
Definitely check this out, but I would also recommend looking at all the other specials because Peacock, like I said, really did the job and did the work of putting all the Garfield stuff together because I have a feeling that in a couple months or something, it's all going to be gone and rotated to some other streamer. But in this case, Peacock's got it all. So just go over there and you can find what we talked about last week, and you can find Uncensored 96 as well. So there's a lot of tie-ins on Peacock right now for the holidays.
All right, for Brian, my name is Jerome. Thank you so much for listening. We will talk to you again next week.